Welcome to today's Global Connections program. I'm Bill Miller. You're watching Global Connections Television, which is a privately funded, independently produced program. The opinions expressed on Global Connections Television are solely those of the moderator and his guest. We'd invite our viewers to go to our website at www.globalconnectionstelevision.com to view previous programs. Also, if you're involved with a PBS or community access television station, or perhaps an educational institution that has an intra-campus television hookup, or you have a computer, you have a website, you like our programs and you would like to share them, please feel free to do so. Global Connections Television is provided at no cost as a public service to help us better understand international issues and how they impact our lives. Today we're taking a look at a very interesting artistic project by really a fantastic artist from Lexington, Kentucky, USA. Marjorie Guyon is a local artist who has an international reach. Marjorie Guyon has developed artwork and public projects that appear in public and private collections across the United States. Her recent projects express her vision for a public art that manifests in street museums that redefine the space they inhabit. My second guest today is Mr. Darnell Burton. Mr. Burton is a project manager on this very interesting portrait. He is also a resident of Lexington, Kentucky, and his family has traced roots in Lexington back to 1840, before which there is no information. Marjorie, Barry, welcome to today's Global Connections program.
Thank you, Bill.
This is a very interesting project, and we're going to get into it very quickly. Let's just jump right into it. Marjorie, what is this project, and when was it started, why was it started, and what is your goal?
This project was started in 2016 as a means to shift the spirit of the country. And I'm an artist, and my studio looks out over Cheapside, which is one of the largest auction sites for enslaved people in the country. And one day I was looking out my window at the studio, and I just blinked on this image of mothers and children appearing and disappearing in the windows and doorways surrounding the old courthouse. And I was with a friend at that time who was also concerned about the country, and she had a little boy, and I said, "What do you think?" And she said, "Let's do it." And from there, which was 2016, the project has just taken fire. It's just exploded. I called on a friend of mine who is African-American poet, Nikki Finney, and she said that she would like to be involved in it, and she said it shouldn't only be mothers and children, it should be the scope of humanity. And she came down to the studio, and when she left, I gave her an ancestor portrait of my own. It was my great-great-grandfather, who I've looked at that portrait ever since I was little. And she said, "Why are you giving this to me?" And I said, "I have no idea." And 3 weeks later, I was on the phone with her, and I said, "Nikki, this is going to be an ancestor spirit portrait. We're going to create a memorial to people who were bought and sold." And anyway, so Barry came into the project because initially he was one of the models for this iconic ancestor spirit, and then he can pick up a little bit on it.
Good entree. You're one of the project participant managers.
Yes.
What does that mean, and how did you get involved?
Well, as Marjorie was saying, I came in as a model, and I was just intrigued by the project, where her vision of it, and what she explained to me that was trying to do to change the way America viewed itself and everyone in America, to be inclusive and not exclusive, that for all the things that the forefathers had put in the Declarations of Independence, for everyone to be included, but so many times they have been excluded. But this project has the tendency and ability to change all of that, to bring America to see each other equally, and to include everyone in America, to have everything that America promises, you know, the freedom, the independence, the pursuit of happiness, the financial income that's available. Everyone should partake. It's enough for everyone. And this project has a way of shifting the spirit of so many people that have been left out of the American dream, that have paid forward but have not reaped any of the benefits. And this project, Ancestral Spirit, I Was Here, I think, is the catalyst that will change all of that.
And of course, the U.S. has had the pluribus unum as a motto since probably day one, I guess, from the Constitutional Convention, or even certainly after that. And of course, out of many, one. And we've never achieved it, but we're moving in the right direction, hopefully.
Yes.
And this is one way to do that. Well, let me mention your website, and this was a tricky website. We're going to put it at the lower thirds. It's www.i-was-here.org. So we'll put that in the lower thirds so our viewers can take a look at it. And we also have a film or video that you brought with you, and this is going to show a bit of how this project was developed. So why don't we go to the video for about 3 minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about it. That was really interesting. Very good. Would you like to add a little bit to that? We could probably spend 2 hours talking about how this thing developed.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that this is not a soundbite project. There is so much to unpack in it. But if we can go deep rather than wide, one thing that I think is important to talk about is, because we got this national award from the American Association of State and Local Histories, it brought historians into the project. So what the project really does is that it creates a visual for history. So like all the markers that exist of this happened, we now can create these visuals at these wound sites. So that's one thing that I think would be good to go deep on.
Very true. And Barry, how has this impacted your life since you've been involved in this?
Well, this has impacted my life very greatly. I mean, I've been introduced to so many different people and different things, and I have had the opportunity to meet people such as yourself that are very intelligent, have in-depth thought, and every time I meet someone, I get a little bit more knowledge of America itself and how it is put together. So, and I being a self-taught person, everything influences another. It's all call and respond. So when you understand that and you know how to respond to the call and you know how to give the right call to get the proper response, then things start to shift in your favor a little bit. So it's been very entertaining and very enlightening.
Enlightening, I'm sure it has.
Yes.
Well,
Yes,
I mean,
please.
the other thing that I think would be great for you to talk with Barry about is this project has really developed, like, it has a life of its own. And there was a certain point where I realized that we need a blessing or a sanctification each time that these images go up. And Barry, as well as being project manager and model, is also the man who wrote the prayer for the project. And I think that that would be something that would be kind of neat to talk about as well.
Yes, please do. Can you describe the prayer?
Well, the prayer, it came to me just like when we were talking about the lost souls that had been traded at Cheapside and other places in the United States. And it says simply, where do I begin? You know, how do I find my way home? You know, there's so many lost souls, so many lost people. How do I understand a language that I have never been taught, referring to the people in slavery that had been taken from their homeland, brought to America to be traded? And so I elaborated on that and just, you know, thought about all the things that I had known about history, about the sale and trade, the Trail of Tears, how many, you know, bodies that were left on this trail, how many families were broken, stolen, fathers not being allowed to see their sons grow, mothers having their children snatched from their breasts in public auctions, and, you know, and so on and so forth. And then referred to Jesus in his crown of thorns, that, you know, he bared the sins of all men so that we could have life and have it more abundantly. It's so many things that I touched on in that prayer.
But the refrain of it, the I'm calling your name.
Yes.
So that has become, after each stanza in the blessing, is this.
I'm calling your name. And that's a call to everyone in America, okay, when I say that. I'm calling your name to all the leaders, to all the people who have power to change, to make a change, adjust the situations in America and write the laws, okay? It's these people. Now, I'm calling your name. You have to take a stand. You have to understand that America cannot be great if we continue to exclude, okay? Because that is not what America was intended to be.
Certainly not e pluribus unum, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
That's for sure. Put it mildly.
It's also, I'm calling your name to the people who lost their names. And it's also, I'm calling your name, I have faith that you can look at this, that you can receive this, that you can shift as well. So this is really a project for everybody.
Certainly is. And when we were talking about this, I was thinking, just rumbling around the back of my mind, there have been several efforts to focus the spotlight on this horrific period of slavery. And I think it started, first slaves arrived in 1619, something like that.
Right.
And of course, for most of them from Western Africa. But I know the New York Times has done a really remarkable piece on focusing on slavery. They have the 1619 Project. Last year and the year before, the United Nations, they looked at transatlantic slavery. They had major programs at the United Nations. Many of the ambassadors, the countries were involved in doing portraits and that type of thing. Of course, the UN gets millions of visitors every year, and they have UN TV that goes around the world. But those were just two examples that came to mind. Did they have any influence on you, or you're just one more? I guess those two and yours, and I'm sure there are others that are out there too.
This all started just because I'm an artist, okay? So I do commissioned work, and this woman came up to the studio and she just said, what are we going to do about our country? And somehow or another, I took that as a commission. I'm going to take this as an idea, and one thing led to another. You can say that it happened independently, but I believe in some way we're all connected, and so what they were doing at the New York Times somehow is what was happening to me when I was looking outside the window. So, but this started in 2016.
Oh, so you were ahead of the New York Times. That's right. Very good. Well, that and the project, I don't know much about it, but as I understand it, the New York Times is working out with the Smithsonian Institution in Washington and thousands of public schools around the country to bring it into the curriculum and to focus attention on this and to talk about the travesty that took place. Now, a lot of our viewers are going to say, what is this lovely portrait behind us? Before we go too far and run out of time, what exactly is this dust in the shape of a sun?
Well, what the project is made up of is 21 Ancestor Spirit Portraits, and they are reproduced onto translucent tapestries which let light through. Nikki Finney, as I mentioned, wrote a poem for the project, and words from her poem are in the pieces, as well as words from Barry's prayer are in the project as well. So what it is a set of iconic figures: mother, father, sister, brother, husband, wife, elder, younger. It's a visioning of Americans.
How does this, and of course, since we're doing Global Connections Television, we always talk about global international issues. I can see, obviously, slavery was certainly an international issue, no doubt about that. How does this parlay into some other international activity? Do you see the possibility, perhaps, of other artists in other parts of the world, other museums, other displayers, shall we say, using this? Or do you have any desire, or would you like to take this overseas to share with other folks? Or what are some of the international connections? I mean, we see them already, but are there others that are on the drawing board?
Well, just going on exactly the relation of this to an international topic. There's latitude and longitude throughout the project, and at first we thought this was a Central Kentucky project, and so Central Kentucky latitude and longitude. But as the project developed, we end up talking about the transatlantic slave trade, which underneath the ocean where the ships went is the highest and longest mountain range in the world. And so it's like the whole world is upside down when you think about it. The ship with people in the bottom of it is going over the highest and longest mountain range in the world. And so there's latitude and longitude from, well, quite a few places in the world. It's already an international project now. How that will manifest, who will be interested in it is really, we don't know that yet.
But we will find out shortly.
Well,
we certainly will, right. Well, let's talk a little bit about, we talked about slavery, and before the program we were talking, Barry, about the fact that there are obviously no slaves still alive today, that's
yes.
for sure. But still, we do have remnants of this. We have this, we see that this horrific legacy has come through in many of our housing policies, our educational policies, financial policies, just on across the board. How do those factor in?
Well, they factor in greatly. I mean, because you have to stop to think that so many people, ancestors that are here in America, such as myself, that ancestors paid, but we haven't reaped any of the benefit. Like we gave all of this up front, but we are still being held back from all of the fruits of America, from our labor. But then you have new transients, immigrants coming in America is still like giving them a chunk of the pie, giving them a a stake to get started. Okay, so even in education, finances, housing, everything, but we are still being held back. I'm like, what is this really all about? What is really going on? You know, so this project is opening the doors and windows for this conversation. Without this project, we cannot have this conversation. So this very conversation, and you cannot heal or repair anything until you first realize and discuss the problem at hand. Mm-hmm. And once that's on the table and America starts to look at it and talk about it, then comes the healing process.
Mm-hmm. How would you like to move, I think very good points, how would you like to move this forward to achieve Barry's points that we've made? How can we do that? Or how can you do that?
In several ways.
Okay.
One is that this On the Street Museum brings art to people who would not ordinarily have a daily or weekly experience with art. So that's that you bring it onto the street and you bring these beautiful, layered, metaphoric images that could begin to reshape the way we see each other. So that's A. B is that, so that's on the street. But what one of our hopes is that through corporate relationships, that policies could actually be shifted in, as you said, education, banking, et cetera, et cetera. So we're operating on the micro and the macro level at once. So how that will all work, we just have to see, but so far it's been very interesting. And that's been the funny thing. In this strange time in America and in the world, I've been surprised by how many people have been drawn to this project and like the doors that have opened to us as a result of it. I'll say this about it. There are no signatures on any of this art. This is an anonymous project. The only way that we noted that hands were in it was every model and me and the photographer Patrick Mitchell and Nikki, we put our thumbprints in. And it's a renunciation of self that has brought all these amazing souls to it.
It certainly has. It's a remarkable project. It really is. And while you were talking too, I was thinking we don't have, well, we do. In some countries, slavery still exists.
Yes.
It really does. And you can even make an argument that even today in the United States on some of the farms, we have conditions where people are held against their will. And I think of situations like human trafficking. You have child brides. A lot of situations around the world. The UN, I know, combats these problems every day, as do a lot of governments and non-governmental organizations.
Yes.
But we do have it out there in different forms. We don't have the transportation in boats as large or as many people as came from Western Africa in 1619,
right.
or for the next 250 years, I guess. So, but it is out there today, and we have to be aware of this, do we not?
Yes.
And we do. We need to work on it, that's for sure.
Absolutely, because human trafficking is like you said, still a great problem. I mean,
major.
I mean, families are still losing their loved ones, children's, daughters, mothers. I mean, they've been snatched in parking lots, coming out of grocery stores, laundromats. I mean, it's just crazy. You know, a van parked next to a person's car could be the perfect getaway vehicle for just taking a person right off the street and for sex trade. That's what really most of it is about. That's why it's most of the women that are being, you know, snatched this very day. So yes, it still is a very big problem for different reasons, but it was always for Montessori gain.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
so
very true.
it still needs to be
we've
dealt with.
We've certainly summarized the problems and part of the answers in the last 20 seconds. What's the greatest challenge as you move forward with this project? Hardest question.
Honestly, the strange thing is that we started this without a penny, and everything that we've needed, we've been given. And so things come up every day that are like, how are we going to do this? And then the answer appears. And so I'm not going to say that there are challenges in this. I'm going to say that we just have given ourselves to it, and somehow or another, through the most unlikely and likely ways, the project keeps getting fed. So,
Absolutely.
Barry Darnell Burton, Marjorie Guyon. I think it's a perfect way to end the program. Instead of challenges, we have opportunities. But I want to thank you both so very much for bringing this project to our attention, and the best of luck in the future, and thanks again.
And thank
for
you
a
for
very
having
interesting
us.
and a very informative program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm Bill Miller. Thank you for joining us today on Global Connections Television.